Do you remember when this hung on Main Street in Disneyland? I'm Scott Wolf, and through my artifacts and never-before-seen photos, I want to take you back to Disneyland in 1991 and the Disney Afternoon Live. For as far back as I remember, I've always loved Disneyland. When I was working for Disney Television Animation and had a Silver Pass, I started going to Disneyland all the time. It was like a dream to not only be working for Disney, but to have access to the happiest place on earth whenever I wanted. It was particularly exciting in 1991 when they had an 8-month-long special event based on the Disney TV animation shows I worked on. It was called the Disney Afternoon Live. At that time on television, there was a 2-hour block of Disney animation programming, and it was called the Disney Afternoon. The 4 shows in the Disney Afternoon at that time were DuckTales, which I had worked on, Gummi Bears, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, and TaleSpin, which I was an assistant producer on. This photo was when we had a party at the studio celebrating the launch of the Disney Afternoon. This Disney News magazine announced the Disney Afternoon Live, although all the pictures in here are just the characters around Disneyland. They were all taken before the event, I guess in order to meet the print deadline, so it's just the characters posing at various places. But while they were finishing construction, I got to go in and snap some photos, and I want to share some of them with you. Afternoon Avenue was a big part of the Disney Afternoon Live. That inflatable marked the entrance of Afternoon Avenue. It wasn't quite finished. There would be an Afternoon Avenue sign hanging from it, and you can see the construction wall beyond it was still up at this time. Just on the other side of the construction wall, workers were still painting the ground. While the area was closed, it was a good time to do a refurbishment on It's a Small World. If you look closely, you can see that the iconic rotating face was temporarily removed. You know, all of this was before there was a Mickey's Toontown in Disneyland. Afternoon Avenue was the first time that Disneyland had a land of cartoony-style buildings. This area was loosely patterned after Duckburg, the setting in the DuckTales TV show. Although these were small scale and not extravagant by typical Disneyland standards, they were pretty extravagant for a temporary marketing event that was only lasting for 8 months, and it was quite fun. The quick service restaurant, which had previously been called Yum's and is currently called Troubadour Tavern, was called Louis for this event, after King Louis from TaleSpin. Up at the top here, they're putting the final touches on this mural. That mural is above what is now the entrance to Mickey's Toontown. This is the building just below the bridge. You can see a poster on the building for the live Plane Crazy stage show at Videopolis, which is now called the Fantasyland Theater. The Disney Afternoon Live opened on March 15, 1991, and it would run until November 10th of that year. As with most types of these events, they had great signs on the lampposts on Main Street, and I've got one of them right here. The jacket that I'm wearing was worn by cast members during the whole event, and I'm going to turn around here so you can see the back. This was designed by Sandra Huber. Now, Sandra created all the new operations and culinary cast member costumes. She chose bright, cheery colors to appeal to children, and since the theme of the event celebrated the TV stars of the Disney Afternoon, this jacket was designed to appear as a TV crew jacket. Now, here's some promotional buttons that they made for the event. This is a souvenir guide that was given out at the entrance of Disneyland. It has line art of the characters in front of the castle, and it has Mickey and Minnie with the Disney Afternoon characters, which is really cool to me because Mickey and Minnie were not part of the Disney Afternoon, so it's fun to see them all together like that. Here on the back is an ad to catch the true colors of Disneyland on Kodak film. I sure bought many rolls of Kodak film at Disneyland. In fact, all the photos I took that I'm showing you were taken on Kodak film. Inside here is a photo of the Plane Crazy show. This lists all the features of the Disney Afternoon Live. It mentions the Rescue Rangers Raceway, which rethemed the Autopia to the Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers show, and the motorboat cruise through Gummi Glen. If you look carefully, you can see they even changed the names of the boats for this. My friend Kevin Kidney, who's a brilliant artist, was working in Disneyland Entertainment Art during the design of the Disney Afternoon Live, and he sent me this photo of a model of artwork that would appear in the Motorboat cruise. You've seen Kevin's artwork throughout Disneyland, in parades and in Fantasmic and so much more. He also sent me this photo of the TaleSpin themed overlay that was proposed for Tom Sawyer Island, but that one never came to fruition. It's fun to see some things that never happened. This guidebook also mentions a free adventure map that guests could take around Afternoon Avenue and get stamped. You would visit the Junior Woodchuck headquarters to get it. Here's a photo I shot, on Kodak film of course, showing the Junior Woodchuck headquarters, which was just at the front of Afternoon Avenue. It was staffed with a Disneyland tour guide to hand out the maps. Looks like there's a family there getting a map. And of course, I got one too. This is the map. Now folded, it looks like a brochure for the Disney Afternoon Live. When you open it here, you can see that it's a poster, and it has the instructions to walk down Afternoon Avenue, where you can collect all your favorite Disney Afternoon character stamps. On the back is that free adventure map. It has many of the characters, plus blank spaces to get stamped. The middle has some fun artwork, which is a map of Afternoon Avenue, and the X's mark the spots where you can find the stamps. Over at the left is the Louis food counter. Going to the right, above you, you can see Stage 1 under the train tracks. Beyond that is now Mickey's Toontown, but that's where you met Baloo in his dressing room. Down below, you see the backs of some of the Duckburg buildings. There's the Motorboat cruise and the Autopia. Fun stuff. Now this was a promotional pamphlet to promote Disneyland and the Disney Afternoon event. This one has the live Disney Afternoon characters in front of the castle, surrounded by some 90s artwork. Here in the center, there is some more fun Disney artwork. The top left represents the Plane Crazy show, and then there's Sunny Gummi and the Motorboat cruise. It's interesting that they chose to draw the characters as they appear live in Disneyland, rather than their smaller animation-scaled versions. There's the Autopia, temporarily rethemed to Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. And up at the top, you can see characters meeting some kids in front of a Duckburg building. Look at the back. Admission to Disneyland was just $27.50. Not bad, but it looks like a 3-day pass would set you back $72.50. The Disneyland Line was the employee newsletter of Disneyland, and this one talks about the Disney Afternoon Live event. According to this, then CEO Michael Eisner wanted Disneyland to do a Disney Afternoon Stars event. Disney's creative team originally thought of the concept of having the villains take over the attractions at Disneyland, and then the Disney Afternoon Stars were called into the rescue. It doesn't go into more detail than that, but instead they just had the villain characters in the Afternoon Avenue area commingling with their other Disney Afternoon stars. Before the Disney Afternoon Live, no guest had ever passed beyond the train tracks next to It's a Small World before. It was impossible. Today it's the entrance to Mickey's Toontown, but this Disneyland line says an opening had to be cut in the berm. They removed approximately 18,000 cubic yards of soil, and the area was lowered by about 10 feet to provide access to the dressing room. They also removed and relocated a number of trees. The old train tracks that laid atop the berm were removed, and in their place a new Victorian-style train trestle now allowed guests to pass under it. Let me show you a few more photos that I took around Afternoon Avenue. Here's a shot of the entrance. There's the Junior Woodchuck headquarters at the left, and those umbrellas are the stamping stations. There were photo locations all over the area, including this one of the character Tootsie from DuckTales. The building's made for some great photo locations for guests, but I thought it would be fun to have some of the characters pose for me. Gadget looks like a giant in there because the buildings were really meant to be backdrops rather than having people, or mice, inside of them, but it gives you an idea of the scale of the buildings. This building was the entrance to another temporary attraction where you could meet Baloo in his dressing room. Inside, guests could pose with Baloo and take pictures of him. I had him pose for me, and here he is reading his contract for the Plane Crazy stage show. Here he's putting on some stage makeup. Now I'll show you another photo I took of Baloo as you've never seen him before. Here he is, fresh out of the shower. That one was just for me. Guests didn't get to see him like that. Lastly, I want to show you some of my photos from the Plain Crazy show. This show was at Videopolis, what is now the Fantasyland Theater, and I'll play you a little audio of the show.
We will rule the world, and then I, the fantastically handsome and snappy dresser, Don Carnage, will be king.
And I will be Commissioner of Caviar. The show must be starting.
Well, let us sit down. I hear it is pretty good.
Hey, cats, here comes the hardest working orangutan in show business. Louie and the Louette.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey do.
You ape me and I'll ape you.
You ape me and I'll ape you.
Something old, something new.
Something old, something new.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey do. Friends for life, friends for life. Through all kinds of trouble and struggle and strife. There's all kinds of people, but we'd rather be friends for life, you and me.
You know, there was one character that you could meet at the Disney Afternoon Live in Disneyland, although he wasn't a part of the Disney Afternoon, and that was Darkwing Duck. That's me with Darkwing at an event on the studio lot. Back in 1990, we had an event on the lot to celebrate the premiere of the Disney Afternoon, and they had this big inflatable there. But in 1991, Darkwing Duck replaced the Gummi Bears in the Disney Afternoon block, and this was updated to include the newest character. I had a lot of fun gathering all these materials and revisiting them to share with you in this video. They sure brought back a lot of fun memories, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing it all too. Thanks for traveling back with me to 1991.